Hi, my name is Jason Rinker. I'm the project director on the What Works project, and welcome to the What Works podcast. And this is my co-host.
How you guys doing today?
So today we're going to be talking about how did we get to where we're at. We're going to frame this conversation a little bit. We're going to try not to make this a history lesson or just a timeline, but in order to make this as helpful as possible, we're going to talk about the 4 parenting styles. So we've got authoritarian, which is not what we want. That is a high control, low relationship sort of way of parenting. We have authoritative, which is what we'd like to see more of. It's a high control, high relationship system. So you've got good structure, good control, you've got good expectations, and you've got good relationship to support our youth in achieving those expectations. We then also have a permissive sort of parenting style, which is, low control, and maybe you've got high relationship. So you're kind of indulgent with the child, but we're not really giving them much direction. We're allowing them to decide direction. We're allowing them to, decide if something is good for them. So it's not really allowing the parent to kind of inform decisions. And then finally, we have, what we can call neglectful. So it's low control and low relationship. So that's, kind of hands-off parenting. So we wanted to give you those 4 because we wanted you to understand when we start talking about where we started and how we've kind of come to today, we're going to be referencing those 4 parenting styles so that we can be a little bit clearer about what works within those systems and kind of where they were trying to get to and why maybe they struggled based upon the parenting style that was behind their kind of their approach to the systems at that time. And so, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, we saw a lot of authoritarian style systems. We saw, reform schools, orphanages. It was, as I was saying earlier, that high control, low relationship, do as I say sort of style. These early systems believed that obedience is what created the change. Youth didn't have a voice, they had no choice, and really there was no explanation as to why they should do what it is that, kind of epitomized by that phrase, do as I say, not as I do. And I, want to open this up to you, David, like what happens when behavior is controlled but skills aren't built?
I think you get the knee-jerk reaction that we see a lot of times that still happens a little bit today in care with our youth trying to control their own destiny and having something else that's on top of them telling them what they need to do, how they need to do it. And we get a lot of pushback. It's probably the most difficult thing for them to even process that they don't have any control over their future, but yet we're talking about putting together a plan together for them to get them ready for the real world. And what does that look like?
Yeah. You mentioned the real world, right? And I think that's for sure something I've heard, teaching and training and working as a staff. We want to prepare them for the real world, but the real world doesn't give a whole lot of guidance.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
You're
and so
right.
We want them to be able to guide themselves and not require external control, like law enforcement stopping them from doing something. And yet we somehow expect the system, or particularly early on in these authoritarian systems, we expected the lack of autonomy to somehow teach them how to make those decisions themselves when they never were given the options or the opportunities to take those decisions in their own hands, right? It was order without development. It was telling them what to do but never explaining why it was, or equipping them to make those choices.
I think that's the time when you also, I'm not sure where I saw this, I think it was John Maxwell, he was talking about age and maturity. This is the same thing. We have our youth that are getting older, but it's just the age. The age is coming alone. The maturity is not coming with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes age does come alone.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I mean that's a great point. Like our roles, our jobs sometimes put us in an encounter with a kid who should have the maturity to make those decisions because they are the
Right.
age to make those decisions. And so we've got to find a way to respect their age and
Emotional development,
meet,
the whole
yeah,
point. Yeah.
meet them where they're at and bring them to where they should be.
Where they should
right?
be. Yeah.
It's not their fault, right? But it is their responsibility to kind of, with our support, catch up.
Yes.
And those early authoritarian systems, they didn't help with the catch up.
Right. It
They
didn't allow for
established
it.
the expectation, maybe, right? Or at least the expectation of what not to do. But they didn't equip to get there.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Kind of good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it's developmentally appropriate, right?
This is true too.
Teenagers have a little bit of, like, don't tell me what to do,
Yeah.
naturally. It's
That's
nothing to do
that's
with
kind of part of the job.
it's traumatizing to the
It-
parents,
it
but it's not a
is.
result of trauma on the kid's behalf, right? Sometimes it's just that's what teenagers
what
are supposed to do.
teenagers
They're supposed to figure out who they are and
Yeah.
and how they walk through this world and how they make decisions.
True.
And these systems don't even allow for that normal development to occur. Right? It
Yeah.
pathologizes, it blames, it shames even the normal attempts to figure
Right.
yourself out.
Right.
And what came next, because everything's hopefully, ideally evolving. We'll talk a little bit later, spoilers, about maybe it doesn't always head the direction we want it to.
Yeah.
It turned into like training schools and country ranches, right? In the early to mid 1900s, it got better organized, but it was still kind of authoritarian.
Very authoritative.
Yeah. Structure, routine. I'm not getting a flashback, but like, the phrase, this hurts me the more than it hurts you, right? This is for your own good, right? Those sort of things, those are rampant in these times, right?
Yeah.
Structure, labor.
I was about to say manual labor.
Yeah. And again, not that manual labor in and of itself is bad. Things, when you're not given a choice, are usually not something that you're taking willing to.
Right. Yeah.
And especially as systems of care changed, like as times changed, the children within these systems of care were different too, right? In the early systems, it was, orphans or, just it wasn't quite the same, type of experiences that kids who are now in care have, right? I hope we do a better job of filtering, kids into the level of care that is most effective for them, the least restrictive sort of setting.
Yeah.
But especially in these early times, everybody just got the same type of treatment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And labor was seen as rehabilitative.
No assessment.
No
done.
assessment,
Yeah.
right? It was about keeping the youth busy. And again, I've heard the phrase, being busy is not the same as being productive. And I think in this circumstance, being busy is not the same as growth.
Right.
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 So like how often do systems mistake like activity or rigidity for progress in treatment?
It's interesting with the rigidity piece. When you're controlling behavior and movement, just because you know where a youth is does not mean that they've made progress. And that, when I think of rigidity, that's what I think of, is how much are we controlling the physical location and movement of this child that's in our care. During these times, because they knew where the youth was, they probably thought it was very successful. We know where he's at.
Yep.
He's not knocking over, the candy stand or whatever
Right.
it was back
Right.
then. But are we addressing any of the the challenges that this kid is having to be a productive member of society.
Yeah.
And
As you were talking about it, it made me think like, again, not to denigrate the importance of this and minimize this, but like listening to an adult could be a measure of progress. But it's not the same as listening to yourself.
No.
Right? That's the other component you were talking about. It's like,
Right.
how do you become a productive member of a society or a citizen? You learn how to make good decisions.
Right.
You aren't told how to make good decisions and you follow
Right.
orders because, as I was teasing about earlier, like, you know, society doesn't give a whole lot of guide
No.
rails, a lot of direction
not.
once you reach adulthood.
Yeah.
Right? You kind of you're supposed to figure it out.
Yeah.
And again, to emphasize, like it's the system we're talking about right here in this time period is still authoritarian but better organized. But authoritative is both high control, high structure, and high relationship.
relationship.
Right? It's all about teaching and relationship. And it doesn't mean that we're permissive. It doesn't mean it's all relationship and no structure.
Right.
That's not helpful
Right.
in and of itself, by itself, right? You need both.
Yeah.
And those early systems were predominantly authoritarian. Like more structure showed up, but meaning didn't. There wasn't clarity of purpose. There wasn't clarity of, hey, and I mean, this is kind of the classic aging out story. Once
that's perfect.
the systems
It
are
is.
gone,
Now
where
what?
do you go? What do you do? Right? And these systems didn't have an answer for that. Yeah.
That's an interesting take even now when we think about how long care follows our kids that age out. What's it, about 6 months?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And is that enough?
Well, and I said we do a little pushback.
Yeah.
How much of that need to follow through is because we're not preparing them effectively to be independent. I'm not saying you get rid of that.
Right.
I'm saying, how do we improve the system so that the least amount of follow through, the least amount of support possible is needed?
Right.
Right? Not because the budget matters, but because their independence, their autonomy is a measure of our success. Right? Not their compliance, which is what these early systems were looking for.
Exactly.
That's how they measured success. Compliance.
Right. Compliance.
Right? And in that regard, that is an early part of treatment in terms of safety. They have to be compliant with safety,
Yeah.
but that's just the beginning.
That's
Right?
where it starts.
That's just the start, right?
Yeah.
And in a parallel sort of way, that's where the systems started too. We needed people to be safe. We kind of didn't know what to do after that.
Yeah. After that, now what? Well, we got it.
Right.
They're here.
They're here. They're safe. They're maybe kind of listening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But again, like, if you could tell a kid what to do, and maybe they listen, and then you turn your back, and then the listening usually stops.
Yeah. It stops.
When you're
Yeah.
only relying on the authority, right? The behavior doesn't continue until they understand why they should continue it for themselves. And that's not that's not kids in care. That's
Yeah.
everybody.
That's our human nature.
That's human nature.
Right.
Right. We don't like being told what to do. If you explain to us why that decision's in our best interest,
Right.
we're much more likely to follow it.
Absolutely.
Right.
I agree.
And I think those early systems had yet to kind of understand what to do next.
And maybe they also think, well, your kid, what do you know? What's good? Well, the kid's got ideas, but there's still also an idea for the
Right.
care that he should
Right.
be having at that age. And at
Great
that time.
point. There was no voice, choice, autonomy in those early systems.
Yeah, it didn't
Treatment
exist.
was done to others. I mean, if they even called it treatment, right? Punishment, kind of like correction was treatment, right? Containment was treatment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Into the into the 60s and 70s, there were some legal cases that kind of came in and ensured that juveniles had due process, right?
Right.
Because up until that point, it wasn't necessarily
even part of the conversation.
Wasn't even part of the conversation.
No, not at all.
In an interesting sort of way, it still continued to be authoritarian, but there were now regulations to it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't, hey, systems, you must do this It was, hey, you can't do that,
Right.
right? And I'm going to keep going back to this. In an interesting way, that is a parallel to early treatment.
True.
It was
It
just,
is.
hey, you can't do that. And we didn't include the...
Yeah, there was something else missing on the back end.
Something else missing on the back end. And we'll continue to see that with the way the systems work, the way the systems work with the agencies,
Right.
the way the agencies work with the staff, the way the staff work with the kids.
Yeah.
Right? This is not putting blame on any one person. It's sharing the responsibility of correcting this
Right.
at each of those sort of levels,
Right.
at the systemic level, at the agency level, at the staff level, and in our interactions with the kids. Yeah. The kids gained rights,
Right.
right? Systems gained some accountability,
Yes.
but still the goal, the vision wasn't collaboration, right?
I think especially with, like you're probably going to jump right in, but the punitive piece, that it was still there.
Was still there, right? The punitive piece is seen as, in this time, educating still, right? Natural consequences can be part of understanding what not to do.
Right.
But natural consequences, I don't understand how they would teach somebody what to do, motivate them to do it, and equip them to do it.
And equip them to do
And
it.
equip them to do it. So, like, how important is it to recognize the difference between these kids in this era now having rights, but still not having a voice? Because I think we can continue to delude ourselves into thinking this is working when we don't hear the feedback from the kids, when their voice
Right.
doesn't matter, when we
Right.
wave it away, when it's not a requirement of care.
Of care.
Right.
Yeah. Because most of them, even just learning how to advocate for themselves at this time, they weren't doing it. Parents advocated for themselves, if that.
Right. Well, and I mean, societally, this is kind of that era of, to quote some Tupac, Brenda's got a baby.
Yep.
We would send Brenda away at that point.
That's
in time.
right.
Like when kids were struggling, they went on a trip.
Yeah.
They went to go see some family.
Right.
They kind
Get
of
sent back
disappeared.
home.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like they didn't have a voice. Parents thought that they were doing the best thing for their kids, often by sending them away to these sort of like reform schools.
Yeah.
And until we started to incorporate and understand how that impacted the kids, it felt like we were successful.
Yeah.
Because when our only measure of success is how they behave, not how the system makes them feel, not how treatment makes them feel, it's successful. As long as you behave well, I think I've won.
We've won.
Or if you're still not behaving well, we see almost a regression to that earlier perspective of, well, but you're the problem. The system isn't the problem.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to fix what we're doing. You just don't fit what we're doing.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, well,
Square peg into the round hole.
right. But we should never be writing off anybody. We
Right.
should always be adapting the system to support everybody we can.
Right.
Right. And that support's going to look different.
Right. For everybody.
Right. But until we incorporate that voice, we're not going to know what they need.
No.
Right.
Absolutely. Right.
If we're even at this era where we consider what they need.
Yeah.
Right. Because earlier on, there
That
was no
was-
consideration.
yeah, it wasn't part
you
of the
could try to
conversation.
voice. We're not listening to it.
Right.
We're not hearing it. And interesting things happen next. We kind of move into the permissive drift, right? We recognize that things aren't helping. So just like, don't lock them up, right? High hope. We're just going to, it's kind of that, what is it? I'm going to mess up the quote, but, essentially like hope is not a battle plan, right?
Yeah,
Hope is
that's
not an
true.
action plan.
That's
Is it
true.
necessary? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not a path.
No.
Right?
It's definitely
like,
not.
We understand that progress and treatment is possible, but we're not yet defining what it is.
But yeah, what is it? What does
Right.
it look like?
Right? We understood that incarceration may not be the answer every single time,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
we
Great.
didn't. Great, right? We moved toward community placements,
Yeah.
but did we do a great job of equipping those community placements?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. Right? Expectations were, clearer, but how do you attain them? Right? We're recognizing that incarceration maybe stops something, but it doesn't, as we were talking about punishment, consequences, it doesn't teach what you should be doing
Yeah.
or how to do it or like motivate you through the difficulty of doing a new thing,
And am I able
struggling,
to do it?
failing. Am I able to do it?
Yeah.
Right? Because that hope is an important part of that.
Yeah.
It's warm intentions, but without the structures to actually achieve
Right.
it. So like, and I'm going to ask you this uncomfortable question, but what happens when you remove structure without placing something else in place?
That's chaos. You leaving somebody to their own, vices. They're gonna make do the best they can with what they've got, and not as we've seen, different demographics have different resources and different skills that they've acquired due to not having the resources. So if it comes down to making money is one of them, they're going to do the best that they can. And sometimes that's not always a good thing. And it leads them right back to the confinement and control that we're talking about right
Yep.
now.
I mean, I know I said this was not going to be a lecture, but
I think
sometimes
we
I
can't
can't
really
help
get away
myself.
from it based on some of the what we're covering.
Yeah, well, and I think it's just part of who I am. But, there's this
That's okay,
idea
bring it.
called the
It's good
Peter
stuff.
principle, where essentially you promote to your highest level of incompetency.
Yes.
Right? And I think that, I've encountered that myself. Apologies to anybody who's had to suffer at the place where maybe I found myself. But like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
And if we're expecting these systems, these agencies, these staff, these kids to do something that they don't know how to do, share the answer, please.
Yes.
Like if we can all rely on each other to figure out how to do this better, we should all be relying on each other to do this
Yeah.
better. And while I 100% agree with the importance of individual responsibility and accountability, that without support and skills changes nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't.
People revert to what they know, right?
Yeah.
It's human nature.
And it's more comfortable.
It's more comfortable.
Change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, as we're kind of proving here, change is difficult.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Systemic change, the people within those systems, it's difficult. And, we see kind of a moment of inflection, a moment of insight, and a moment of conflict when we see kind of DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services, and the juvenile system, juvenile justice system, kind of coming together, right? We now have kids who are, dual,
Yeah.
right? They're both on probation and DCFS. And we see kind of the rise in the 1980s through present, this conversation around, like they just need to do what they need to do, and a growing recognition of trauma and how it impacts people, right? The danger is it's easy for juvenile justice systems to move towards authoritarianism, right, in terms of a parenting style.
Right.
It's easy for us when we seek to understand and be accommodating of individuals who've been through trauma to become permissive, right? And as the research and we laid out at the beginning shows, neither one of those is the optimal parenting style.
It's not the answer.
Right? High control, or high structure, and high relationship, authoritative, not authoritarian, authoritative parenting. That's the way to go. And we still haven't found the system yet that does that well, right?
Right.
But when DCFS and probation kind of collide, so to say, right? Like we start to see the contrast in those systems and see that
Right.
we need a little bit of both,
A little
right?
bit of
Which
both.
is
A little bit more of
combined
both.
most effectively
Yeah.
and authoritative. What does it feel like to be parented by two adults who don't agree?
It's completely confusing. It has to be. You're getting totally different messages of expectations now.
And to be teasing about it, like that's just in a regular household.
Yeah, that's
right?
that's where I was
In
just going
regular
for the
households,
bare minimum.
Right. Like if you've got two parents there,
Yeah.
guaranteed they're not on the same page every time.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Right?
definitely going to be.
I mean, shoot, as one parent, I can imagine sometimes you're not on the
Discussions.
same page with yourself, right? So having like consistent expectations,
yeah,
and as consistent as we can get there, parents, I know it's hard,
yeah,
support, like sometimes let them. Just let them, right?
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes you
have to.
do, right? But that's not authoritarian parenting. You're just like, okay, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is.
Yeah, let's
right?
see what little Johnny's going to learn with this one. Right
That's
now.
right.
Yeah.
And I think that you taking it out of the context of that family environment, if we take it into the group home environment, it is
Yeah.
so hard to have as many staff as we have when we're fully staffed on different
Yeah.
sides of the week, on different shifts, in different
Yeah.
cottages, on the same page.
Correct. You're going to have different styles of management, different styles of communication, and
Different strengths in different staff,
yeah,
different tendencies in different staff.
different tendencies.
Right? And if we step back even further, the differences between how different agencies go about doing treatment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then when sometimes, as we started or mentioned at the beginning of this section, like sometimes you have kids that are on probation and in DCFS, right? And so
Right.
you've got different expectations
Right.
for the same
And
kid,
totally different conversations
right?
with both of those workers.
Right. Because they have different priorities, right? And
Yeah.
not to say that either one of those priorities is better than the other. As we
Yeah.
talked about, both safety and control and relationship are important.
Right.
Different measures for different kids is what is required to
Right.
get them to where they want and need to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think what's perhaps most interesting to me is what happens next, right? The 1990s to the early 2000s, we have the super predator, right? That famous phrase,
Right.
where fear kind of took control.
Right.
We went back to this idea of, well, authority, is what needs to be
That's what's
respected.
needed.
That's what's
Yeah.
needed, right? It was the zero tolerance, tough on crime.
It was
era.
an easy answer.
It's an easy answer. It votes well.
It does.
It polls well.
It definitely does. And
Right.
it resonates with most people that want to
Yeah.
have a safe community.
And in the beginning, it's sometimes not wrong. Super predator is always wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's always wrong.
That was always wrong.
It does sound like a cool movie, but as
Yeah.
policy, it's not good, right?
True.
It's important for there to be high control and high expectations.
Yeah.
The way to help people achieve them long term, what's that?
Yeah.
That's what's missing in those times when we are only high control,
Yeah.
right? Is that high relationship, right? And I think, the feeling of that era is like, if I let you, you're going to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to mess up for yourself. You're going to mess up for others. And we can't let that happen. But
Yeah.
that doesn't teach them how not to mess up if
Right.
it's a mess up in the first place.
Right.
Right. And so usually we end up overcompensating and it's not that we don't even let them mess up. We don't even let them try.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's not even an attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is scary. Right. To let our kids try things sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
It is. The fear of failure, I mean, and we talked about this earlier, is oftentimes it's the parent's fear, and being a dad, like, I could speak to that
Yeah.
till the
Yep.
cows come home.
Right.
But that is your fear.
It's
and you want to
where-
make sure
yep.
you've equipped and prepared your kids enough to do it. And it's the same thing in care. We want to make sure that that they're going to be, I wouldn't say comfortable. Comfortable is not the right word, but at least they're familiar with the process, and you're going to walk them through it. You're going to assist them through it. You're going to let them know some of the landmines that are out there. So when they see them, oh, that's right. Staff told me about this one, and da-da-da. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to create such a chaotic environment that they're comfortable in chaos, because you probably shouldn't be comfortable in chaos.
No.
You don't want to protect them so much that they don't know what chaos is, and so the first time it hits them, because it will hit them, because the world is chaotic, it destroys them. Right? When you were saying like comfortable in chaos, and I agree that's not quite the word. The word that came to me was resilient in the face of.
There it is.
Right?
There it is. Thanks for fixing that.
You're good.
That's not the first or the last story.
The thing about resilience, though, is that you don't get it in a vacuum.
Right.
You don't get it absent from difficulty.
Right.
You don't get it absent from challenges.
You said something earlier about there's still the expectation. And it's the same thing. The resilience gets built. It's a muscle you're building.
Absolutely.
We're helping them get in life shape.
Yep.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah. And, part of the challenge with, the lives of kids who, end up in congregate care is that they've had such big challenges with unmatched support, right? Support that didn't equal the size of the challenge, that's why they're at where they're at, right?
Would you say that then we also need to help them working with their belief?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the reason why I say that, because a lot of times we think it's just automatic that they're going to just jump right in and do it. Yeah. And sometimes we got to work on the belief before they get, because we're the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, I've heard it like competence and confidence, right? Sometimes people are more competent than they are confident.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes people are way more confident than they are competent.
Right.
Right? And we need to help our kids realize their level of competence so that their level of confidence can be equal to it or greater, right?
Or greater.
Because sometimes you want somebody to be confident enough that they're like, I don't know how, but I know I'm going to figure it out, right? And I think that sometimes the role of residential counselors is to hold that confidence for them.
Yes.
Like, I know we don't know how we're going to deal with this. This is such a big problem. This is such a big challenge. There often are no great answers for why our kids have experienced what they've experienced.
Right.
There are no great answers to that. But I know that we'll figure it out. I know that we'll make meaning out of it. I know that you'll get through it, because we're not going to give up until you do.
Yeah, we're here every day. Yeah.
But also you can't punch people in the face.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of authoritative parenting for you, right?
Yeah.
You got this, kiddo, and no more punching people in the face.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can have both.
Yeah.
Right? But telling them not to punch people in the face also doesn't equip them.
That doesn't equip them.
Right.
No.
And so in that sort of like fear-driven regression, that super predator era, like punishment replaced problem solving.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to punish them into not doing it, as opposed to, again, contain the damage if a unsafe choice is going to be made and teach them to make better, safer choices.
Right.
Like both of those are needed. And a lot of the things I'm sure, you and I can almost trace the roots of when we were early on in residential to that sort of era.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a lot of control. It's a lot of documentation. I'm not denigrating documentation.
Yeah.
If it's not documented, it didn't happen. And the way you documented it is the way it happened. That's still true.
Right.
But like it became this risk management enterprise almost.
Yes.
Right. And under fear, people and systems revert to what they know.
What they know best. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that the same is true for our kids. And that it's why change is so difficult for them. Right. They're solving the problems the best way they know how. And until they feel comfortable and, as you were saying, confident enough to do so, they're not going to try a new way.
Yeah.
Because it sucks to fail. They don't believe they can do it right. Or, legitimately, when you do a new thing, you don't always do it that well.
Yeah, you don't always get the exact result that you thought you're going to get.
And so having that environment that allows you to struggle and try new things and fail, sometimes publicly, and still get up and continue to try, that resilience we were talking about, that's kind of where things are trying to get to now.
Yeah.
Right? We're trying as a field, as an industry, as an agency, as individuals, to be authoritative, right? And we see some legislation being passed and some initiatives being undertaken to assist, to guide that, right? Family first, community care reform, short-term residential therapeutic programs, wraparound. We're beginning to identify the things that work. And I think one of the current challenges is, like, how do we both set the expectation and assist on a systemic level agencies and staff to help the kids get there too?
Right.
Because we as agencies got to figure out how to try and fail safely so that we can figure out a program that works. Because we got to deliver that to the staff so they can collaborate with the kids to figure out what works for themselves as well.
Right.
Man, it's a high ask. It's a tough job.
It is. And the patience to have incremental progress is going to be crucial.
Yeah. Because these kids deserve better treatment now. And I guarantee these agencies would love to have better treatment now.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee the state would love to have better treatment now. And if that perfect picture of a 10 treatment program that we talked about in episode 1 was possible tomorrow, I'm sure we would all love to just, as I said, if you wake up tomorrow and it was so, that would be wonderful.
Right.
But we're not there.
No.
Right? We're, maybe a 5 or a 6. I don't know. Hopefully we're maintaining the right direction. But like, what are the challenges that we face in asking for collaboration more frequently than compliance? As systems, as staff, right? What are the challenges there?
I think time might be the only thing. Other than that, if we've all got the same goal, which is to get this one kiddo on everybody's caseload, transitioning to a lower level of care and being a productive member of society and the community, it's time. But I think it's time that it's something that it's worth carving out the time for. It's a great investment. The return on it is, I believe it would be sevenfold when they're properly equipped and they've got some confidence and a little bit of motivation, not motivation, but momentum.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that they can encounter and not figure out how to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the key, right? Is like time and almost like inevitability.
Yeah.
We don't accept that this is not going to get better because we're going to make it get better.
Yeah.
Right? Not in a we're going to force it to happen, but because we're not going to give up and not going to quit working on it together until it does. I think the challenge right now is, I think the direction is right. I think we're headed. We talked earlier about trajectories, right?
Yeah.
It's minuscule changes to trajectory that manifest over time has huge changes in where you end up.
Right.
Right. And I think that we're headed in the right direction. We just got to catch up on capacity. We just got to catch up on competence.
Yeah.
Right. I am confident we'll get there. We just got to figure out the nuances and the ways that we can achieve that.
Yeah.
I think, again, the fun part for me is the parallels in that, right? The state is in the position to state its expectations. Short-term residential therapeutic programs should look like this,
Right.
and that's AB 403, right? They're continuing to add like clarification and sometimes additional elements to what effective treatment seems to look like.
Okay.
And I think this grant is a part of, hopefully, a part of a growing amount of technical assistance and support to help agencies figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to take all of us learning how to lean into authoritative support, right? We can also tell the state, this is what we need from you,
Right.
right? It's not, this is the expectation, this is the support we need.
This is what we need.
This is what we need, right?
Yeah.
But what should drive our ability to manage through all that, because I'm sure it's going to be difficult, is that it ultimately will deliver better care to our kids, more sustainable skill sets, right? Longevity to our staff, less stress to our staff. And ultimately that benefits the systems, right? Because it stabilizes.
Right. Right. I think especially with staff understanding what's expected of them, and they know the clear cut. They're not looking not so much for the shortcut, but they understand what the next step is going to be after that. So it's okay to be right here and comfortable where you're at,
Right.
And not the knee-jerk to shut it down.
Well, because a system that blames you for not figuring it out the first time causes you to say, okay, well, you tell me what to do then, which is the same place we found ourselves when we started this conversation, is when the system just tells you what to do, you don't know how to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And so we've got to figure out, how do we take chances safely as we can, while also bit by bit taking those next steps towards care that allows the kids to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? We've got to be able to model it in ourselves if we've got a chance to teach it to the kids.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I know a little bit of Spanish. You want somebody who actually knows how to speak Spanish to teach the kids how to speak Spanish.
Right.
Right? If I don't know how to do it, I can't teach it.
Right.
And so we've got to learn how to do this as an agency, as a system, if we stand a chance to teach the kids how to take chances, screw up, get back up, keep going.
Yeah.
Right? And that's scary.
It is.
Because the systems, they feel like they hold a lot of liability. And we feel a lot of responsibility for these kids and how their lives turn out. And it's scary to let them take choices and chances into their own hands. But they're going to when they're out of the system anyways.
Right.
And so if we don't utilize the time when they're here with us to teach them how to do that well, we can't expect them to figure it out on their own without all the support they have now.
True. Yeah.
And I think like that's the path we've just got to commit to figuring out. We've seen where we've come from, right? We've seen the shortcomings, even though I'm hoping that the majority of those changes and those choices were founded in the best know-how at those times.
Yeah.
But we've got to keep going.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Yeah. Definitely got our work cut out for us. But it like you said, we're maybe at 5 right now. You could see the end.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to jump on in and add?
No, but I have to say, your Tupac reference is spot on. You surprised me with that
I
one.
mean, my mom didn't get it, but my ringtone for my mom used to be Dear Mama.
There you go.
And yeah.
That's awesome.
I laughed. She did.
That was cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for giving us your time. We hope this was helpful. Maybe we'll try and sprinkle in some rap references. I don't know.
There we go.
All right. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.